Hi, I want to show off how to write your own test assertions with YUI Test. So I've got a Cloud9 Workspace running. I'm going to install YUI Test, and then with that installed, I will open up my Hello World JS, and again, get rid of that and pull in YUI Test. And then what I will be doing is writing my own functions, my own assertions that basically call on YUI Test to assert something, but we do it in a very specific manner. So what I'm going to pull from is a gallery component that I wrote for doing some functional testing. And the two tests I want to work on are is height and is width. And what they do is they take an expected height and then an element, an HTML element, and they assert that the element has the same height as the expected height that's given. I'm going to write this a little bit differently for our test to get it running because I think it's more understandable that way. So I'll write a new function is height, and we're going to take an expected height, our element, and then the last item we want to take in is a message to display in case the height is in case it fails assertion. Now in our example we use element.getRegin, but for simplicity we're going to skip over that and just assume that the element will have a property called height. The other item there is a message that has a default to it. So what I want to be able to do is to allow for somebody to overwrite a message to be sent if the assertion fails. So I'll go ahead and just copy this line out and paste it in, and now when we run our assertion it will either use the message given or use the default message. And now I'm going to write my assertion. So it's as simple as doing YUI test assert our same, and we want our expected value to be expected height, our actual value to be element.height, so that's going to be the height property on our element, and then we'll pass in the message into the assertion. Let's go ahead and test that out by creating a new test case that will use is height. Okay, so we've got a new test case ready to go. We'll go ahead and change the name, and then what we're going to do is say element should have specified height. Then up here we're just going to create a new variable called L. We're going to create it as an object, and in that object we're going to say it has a height of 30. And then we want to do our test, which we'll just call is height. Our expected value we'll say will be 25 so that we know that it fails. And actually, let's do this another way. We will comment out this code and then get our test to fail, and we won't pass in a message, because usually when you're writing your test, the element, the variable that you're testing, or the object that you're testing doesn't exist when you first write your test. So I just want to show what that looks like. So I'm going to run YUI test on hello world, and I forgot to include adding it to the test runner. So this is why you always want to keep your test simple to begin with, is so that you can catch really easy things. So let's try that again, and we still don't have any tests running. So it looks like if we don't have the element available, it throws a big error, and that's why our test wasn't running, because it was never getting to that assertion, because it was failing when it tried to access element.height because element was undefined. So if I comment that out and try running it, you can see it throws an unexpected error, cannot read property height of undefined. Let me just do a quick check to see what it thinks L is. It thinks it's an object, and so if I add back in height, okay, it's an object with a height on it. And so what I'm doing wrong is I've written my test wrong. I shouldn't be passing in L.height. I should just be passing in the element, and is height is going to figure that out for me. So let's try this one more time. And now I've got my test passing. And I can break that pretty easily by changing the value of my height, and now it complains that the expected does not match the actual. You notice I have a message here saying L should have specified height, expected content to have a height of 30. I can go ahead and override that message like I mentioned with something else. Now obviously something else is not a good test message to include, but I just want to demonstrate that we have that ability with our assertion. Let's go ahead and create a new function, and this time we're going to check is width, and it's going to be almost exactly the same as is height. Then we will add a new test case, and we're going to change that to dimensions test, and we'll use is width here and say it should be 30, and then we'll run that test again, and we have a problem because we never set the width property on our element, and then I forgot to change the height back to 30. Okay, so we've got those two tests passing. The last thing we want to do is create another assertion, and then this one is going to check to see if the object is a square. So instead of passing in an expected width, we already know the expected value, and that's that the width and the height should match. So we're just going to pass in our element and then take again a message, expected content to have same height and width. And now we want to check that element height and element width match. So let's go ahead and write a test for that. Element should be a square. And now this time all we have to do is pass in the element, and we'll run our test, and it passes. And that if we change our height or our width to 20, we should have two failing tests, the is width test and then the is square. And you see now it's failing. So that's how you can write your own assertions if you find the need to for specific things. Hopefully this gives you a good overview of what assertions look like, and I'll go a little bit deeper under the hood for how to get the most money out of your testing framework. Thanks.